Hi, I'm your host Vasco Duarte. Welcome to the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast, where we share tips and tricks from Scrum Masters around the world. Every day, we bring you inspiring answers to important questions that all Scrum Masters face day after day. Hello everybody, welcome to our Wednesday, the Leading Change episode, this week with Hassan. But hey Hassan, welcome back.
Hey Vasco, halfway through the week. Let's bring some energy today.
Indeed, happy Wednesday everybody. There you go.
Happy Wednesday.
So Wednesday is change. Of course, it is also the change in terms of being the middle of the week, right? You go from the beginning of the week to the end of the week. But of course, we're talking about organizational, team level, or even personal change, but change processes anyway. So Hassan, tell us the story of one of those change processes you were involved with and walk us through the steps, from beginning to end. How did that go? And as you go through those steps, highlight for us the tools, the tips, the tricks, and the techniques you learned back then that you still apply today.
Sure. First thing I want to do is give a bit of motivation to those listening in today, and that is, if you remain within your teams and you don't venture out, you stay within that box, you're going to remain the best kept secret. So your organization should know about who you are. Taking the time to explore different things will give you different opportunities. And this is how I stumbled upon this opportunity to develop some change. So I was invited. I'd been doing some work. I'd delivered a few talks within my business, within my organization, and so a director stumbled across me and said, "Hassan, I think you'll be a great person to come and help us deliver some Radical Candor workshops." Radical Candor, for those who don't know, is also an acclaimed book by a lovely lady called Kim Scott. And how did they come about deciding that they needed to run Radical Candor workshops? They'd done a bit of a poll within their area, and it seemed that one of the things that cropped up was that people didn't feel within the culture that they felt comfortable sharing their opinions and thoughts with their senior leaders. So maybe some form of fear factor there. They didn't feel like they could be open and honest. So the director within that space wanted to run these workshops to try and change that. And naturally, when I heard about it, I got really excited and thought, okay, how can I come and help and facilitate some awesome sessions? So I took this on straight away, and we started to do this with a mixture of people. So because it was directly impacting both the colleagues and their senior leaders, we decided to do both separate sessions and mixed sessions as well, so that we could collect data and see if people changed their behavior and manner depending on who was in the room. So we wanted to give everyone a fair shot to make sure we could get all the details that we needed. I was doing a bit of work at the time with that director. So we went into the sessions. We ran these Radical Candor sessions. For those who don't know, if you take the time to maybe Google this, you'll see 4 quadrants. So Radical Candor is based on 4 quadrants. Across the x-axis, you've got areas where people avoid uncomfortable conversations. So you get that feeling of either you don't care about the individual and you're not willing to help them. You don't want to hurt a person's feelings. We've all been there. You don't want to say something because you're afraid it might hurt a person's feelings. Therefore, you stay away from the conversation. You've got Radical Candor, which I've used myself. I'll give you an example. One of my product owners at the time, he did great things, but he never shared his successes within our space, within our area. And I link back to that quote at the start of being the best kept secret. So I said to him, Tom, you do all these great things, but you never really tell anyone about it. That's an example of Radical Candor. So taking the time to, even though that person might be defensive about it, think, but I think I do a pretty good job. Because you care and you want to challenge them, you're honest and open with them, and you're able to do that with them. And finally, the last one being obnoxious aggression. Where people critique someone to humiliate them, make them feel not very nice, don't want to use any bad language, make them feel not happy, uncomfortable, doing it just to make them feel bad, which isn't great. So some of the things that we did within this area, or some of the tools that we made use of, if anyone's heard of training from the back of the room. There's some instances, they call them top trumps. So things like images trump words, talking trump listening, movement trumps sitting, writing trumps reading, shorter trumps longer, and different trumps the same. So we try to mix things up and utilize a lot of this information from that book. So using more images than words, because there's only so much reading that people want to do. We broke people off into regular groups. We also took the time to ask them, do you know anything about Radical Candor? So, just trying to gauge how people feel. What do they already know? Do they already know something? Where they're moving around, writing and making use essentially of all these top trumps. And as well as that, another thing that we utilize within this space was liberating structures. So for those who don't know, my absolute favorite is 1, 2, 4 all. And it's a great way when you're looking to, build ideas, create ideas. We did some role play. These were all the different ways that we took an issue, a problem, and we delivered it and packaged it in a way that people found it fun. A bit of role play, people getting to behave in a manner which was, manipulative, insincerity. They don't care. So we give them a role play, so-and-so has a problem. They've not been able to deliver their product because someone's missed something, and everyone is having a laugh and saying, it's so-and-so's fault, oh, it's not my fault, it's so-and-so's fault. And to bring that to life within an environment brought humor. It made it memorable, but it also maybe held up a mirror to people to say that, when have we done this in our life? When have we been in a position where, because we don't want to deal with a situation or a scenario, we've just palmed it off to the next person? You might see this in software development teams where teams work in a function where it's all back-end in one area and then testing in another area, so more component teams. And once the developers have done their work, they don't care anymore. They just throw it over the fence and say, right, it's your problem now. We don't care. We don't want to deal with it. So it's a similar manner to that, and that's something that we used to try and make a change within that.
I really love how you brought in so many different inspiring techniques into that workshop, right? Because Radical Candor was the reason why you were hosting the workshop, but you were at the same time helping explore how we learn as groups using training from the back of the room examples. How do we use facilitating structures to increase the quality of conversations, like Liberating Structures 1, 2, 4 all. And also you did role playing. And I find, in my experience, role playing is intensely powerful. I have seen teams develop patterns in half a day that in the wild, in real organizations, may take half a year to detect. And that is so powerful, because then you have a moment of reflection and learning right there through that role playing. When you look back, what do you think were the most impactful strategies and techniques in order to get people to understand and benefit from the ideas of the book Radical Candor?
Yeah, so in terms of strategies to help it embed in, you just touched upon the role play. I think bringing things to life. We in life, whenever we're doing anything, go back to children and the psychological links to our learning through play, role playing, and tapping into that, playing, gamifying, making something a game really helps bed in what you're trying to achieve. But I think as well as that, it's placing in accountability. Embedding accountability with those who are taking the time to get involved. Number one, they've taken the time and they've shown an interest to get involved. That's a win. Number two, what are they going to achieve out of it? And then number three, how do you then monitor that? So those were some of the key things in terms of what the strategy was, the role play. In terms of moving forward after that, having a team charter, making sure that they were going to utilize this, be responsible for it themselves, because there's only so much that you can be responsible for when you deliver a session like Radical Candor. The responsibility then falls upon the individuals. They then become accountable to take it forward.
Yeah, I really love that aspect. And one of the things that you said, and I want to emphasize, it's self-accountability. This is not about establishing another, individual performance process where you get a mark for whether you did something or you didn't. It's about providing the space, for people to hold themselves accountable. And I think that is so powerful for us if we can take that motivation and then create the routine of self-accountability with our teams.
100%. 100%.
Great story. Thank you for sharing that, Hassan.
Thanks for listening, guys.
Leading change is one of the core skills we must acquire, but it is only one of the steps towards our success as Scrum Masters. Tomorrow, on Success Thursday, we will talk about how to define success for the Scrum Master role. We'll cover tips on how to measure your way to that position, and most importantly, how to develop that focus on continuous improvement that is as important for Scrum Masters as it is for teams. See you tomorrow.
We really hope you liked our show. And if you did, why not rate this podcast on Stitcher or iTunes? Share this podcast and let other Scrum Masters know about this valuable resource for their work. Remember that sharing is caring.